The voting booths are closed in West Bengal, and the final numbers confirm a massive record turnout of nearly 90%. But if you look at this graph plotting out the 294 total seats, the exit poll headlines flashing above it are completely split. One side of the spectrum points to a first-ever BJP government. The other end points to a dominant TMC sweep. Because these raw numbers contradict each other so drastically, we have to strip away the spin. Finding out who actually holds the mathematical edge requires looking at the calculations behind these projections. You are staring at a set of highly contradictory raw numbers. Predicting the next government depends on identifying which of these two datasets is mathematically more reliable. We have to factor in the historical precedent of 2021. Back then, pollsters predicted a tight race and drastically undercounted support for the Trinamool Congress, who eventually won by a landslide. That massive miss happened because of the structural limitations of exit polling in this specific region. Intense social pressure creates a silent voter phenomenon, and the fear of political reprisal heavily skews the data collected outside polling booths. To find the true 2026 result, we must treat these polls as directional momentum indicators rather than exact seat counts. This table shows the first major data cluster. 6 agencies, including Matrice, Chanakya, and PMark, project a narrow BJP victory. Averaging these surveys puts the BJP at 149 to 160 seats, crossing the 148 majority line, with TMC trailing. Believing this consensus requires you to accept a specific set of conditions. It assumes the BJP successfully breached 2 key demographic voting blocks, the urban Padralak and the Matua community. The risk built into this projection is that it leaves zero room for error. If these pollsters miss the mark by a mere 2%, that narrow majority vanishes. Accepting this BJP edge consensus means betting your expectations on these specific demographic shifts materializing perfectly at the ballot box. Looking back at our matrix, we see the contrasting data set. Minority outlier polls reject the consensus, predicting a sweeping retention of power for the TMC. People's Pulse projects up to 187 seats, while John Mott pushes even higher, potentially breaking the 200-seat barrier. Trusting these outliers requires a completely different assumption. It means believing that the silent voter phenomenon heavily favored the ruling party, likely driven by established welfare dependencies. If these numbers hold up, it means local political sensitivities completely masked the true voter intent from the majority of mainstream pollsters on the ground. To figure out which of these scenarios is actually going to happen, we have to look at the math governing this election, the first-past-the-post electoral system. This flowchart illustrates the vote-to-seat conversion trap. A tiny 1% shift in vote share can convert into a disproportionate 20-seat swing. This exact math played out in 2021, allowing TMC to outperform polling predictions by over 60 seats. Because of this conversion trap, a narrow projection, like predicting the BJP will win exactly 150 seats, does not guarantee a tight, evenly divided legislative assembly. A standard error of just 1 or 2% will not result in a close race. It will mathematically trigger a landslide victory for whoever actually captures that tiny hidden margin. We can't view these sterile numbers in a vacuum. The physical realities of the Bengal election phases involved a heavy presence of central security forces. With allegations of political violence and central overreach, many voters feel the tension. When approached by a stranger with a clipboard outside the booth, many simply won't answer honestly. This visible tension is the exact root of the silent Varuf theory we mapped earlier. The intense environment of this election distorts raw polling data. In this climate, structural polling errors are a mathematical probability. This scorecard breaks down the final evaluation. Trusting the statistical edge, based strictly on polling consensus, points to a narrow BJP government. However, trusting the structural edge, factoring in historical misses and the silent female vote, points toward a comfortable TMC majority. Whatever you do, do not prepare for a tight 150 to 140 hung assembly on May 4th. Prepare for a systemic polling error. Whichever party actually captured those silent margins will walk away with a majority of over 170 seats. These exit polls only map the battlefield. They cannot predict the final score.